Welcome, everyone. My name is Rachel McGill. I am the Healthcare Workforce Liaison here at JMG. We are talking about another monthly Monday webinar series, which is a partnership and collaboration with MaineHealth, in which we talk about different career opportunities or training programs that students could consider as they're making post-secondary plans. So today we are going to be talking about the EdTech Apprenticeship Program, and we have with us Haley Davis, who is a workforce development specialist. Haley, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
So I like to start every session with just talking about your kind of career path. How did you get to this current role? And did you always know you wanted to work in healthcare?
Oh, that's a good question. I think yes and no. I always knew I wanted to work in a helping role. I just wasn't sure sort of what that would look like. Um, so I actually have a background kind of in psych. I was a wilderness therapy guide for a little while, and then I was a psych tech at Spring Harbor. And then that kind of led me in the direction of pursuing becoming an occupational therapist. So I am an occupational therapist by licensure. And I've taken kind of a non-traditional path. I worked in some nursing homes. I worked in a hospital. And then I worked for MaineHealth for almost 5 years now, but in different capacities. So I worked in training and development when I first started for Maine Behavioral Healthcare, which is through the same organization that the EdTech apprenticeship is offered through, MBH. And then I went to vocational services and worked as an employment specialist, helping people maintain and obtain jobs in the workforce, working with people who have any sort of disability through the Department of Labor. And then most recently joined the Workforce Development Department a couple months ago, which has been a nice way to sort of think about like the bigger picture of helping people find what best career path works for them. So it's been a cool way to kind of bring all of my experiences together.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I think it's really important for students to hear that no one's path is super linear usually,
Yeah.
and there is a roundabout way that people can go about finding what it is they want to do. And that can change. And MaineHealth is an organization that has the flexibility to kind of move you through different positions because of the vast array of things that they do. So I think this is a really good thing to highlight.
Yeah.
So
And
we're
I would say
okay.
definitely always like no experiences are wasted, right? Like
Yeah.
you use skills in like even working in retail, right? Or in the
Yeah.
fast food industry or something. Like you're still working with people, right? You're
Yeah.
working with that all helps in healthcare and education and everything. So I would say no experiences are for naught.
No, that's good. Lots of transferable skills. So we're talking about the EdTech apprenticeship, but as we were talking, perhaps it's a good thing to really ground students in what an EdTech is and what their roles are on a day-to-day basis.
Sure. Yeah. So an ed tech really is an entry level support position in education. So we are talking about the ed tech program through Maine Behavioral Healthcare at MaineHealth. And that looks a little bit different than an ed tech in a public school system. But essentially, what an ed tech does is they can work one-on-one with students who maybe need a little bit more you know, they could be pulled out of the classroom for one-on-one instruction. It could be integrated into the classroom for extra help with reading or extra help with math. Or it could be pulled out in like a reading group. You could be working with a group of students facilitating sort of a group activity or a group lesson. And sometimes you're leading things like in a group that the lead teacher in the classroom would give you to lead, or sometimes it's really more of a support role and you're just sort of helping out in the classroom, again, maybe one-on-one with a student, or could just be like general helping in the classroom, like a kind of co-teacher role like that.
Got it. So would these be traditional hours then of like a regular school day that
Yes.
that a person would, okay, great, good
Yep.
to know.
Yeah.
Um, Okay, so now that we kind of have a sense of what the ed tech position is within the behavioral health side of things, could you just give us a brief overview of the program? And we'll get into specifics as we talk, but yeah, just an overview of what students can expect.
Yeah, so the EdTech Apprenticeship Program is a new apprenticeship that MaineHealth just agreed on and kind of got off the ground. It's offered at the Glickman Lauder Center of Excellence in Autism and Developmental Disorders, which is a huge mouthful. They kind of refer to it as the Center of Excellence, so the COE. So if you hear me referring to that, that's what I'm talking about. So at the COE, you're working in a special purpose school. So these are working with school aged kiddos that are not successful in their public schools. And so they're needing a little bit extra support. And so this apprenticeship program is an 18-month long earn while you learn program. It's offered in conjunction with Southern Maine Community College. And it's through the Department of Labor and the Maine Apprenticeship Program. And it's really designed for anyone who wants to be an ed tech 2 at MaineHealth. So as far as who this program works for and who can apply and who this is appropriate for, the requirements right now are just 18 years or older, resident of the state of Maine, proof of authorization to work in the US, a high school diploma or GED, and really like a desire to work in the education field. If you see that you maybe one day want to be a special education teacher or you want to get into the school system, this is a really great place to start. It's the working hours during the day. You're not working weekends, you're not working nights, right? So you need the ability to work full time during the day. And since this is a special purpose school, it's really, it would really be considered a healthcare setting. So it's not necessarily like what you would think of like a traditional school, maybe like where you guys are in school in a public school, but really more of like a little bit more of a medical model. And so a lot of what you're going to be doing is one-on-one with a student.
Great. Thank you. Yeah. And you hit on a whole bunch of stuff. So the length of the program's 18 months. Could you talk about the structure of like a day? So is it like split between classroom time and then like hands-on time? What does that look like?
Yeah, so as far as the structure goes, the first week of the program, so the entry points of the program are typically like what a semester is. So January start and a fall start, so September start. The first week of the program is like an intro to teaching boot camp, they call it. And this is the first week of the program. It's unpaid. And it is just, I think 8 to 4:30 classroom. So the full time, full week in the classroom, sitting, lots of listening. And after that week, you spend time working full time at the Center of Excellence. So the hours are, I think, 7:30 to 4 at the Center of Excellence. And then class is one afternoon per week each semester. So currently it's Mondays from 3:30 to 6:30. And that's offered in Gorham, actually. So it's kind of confusing. It's through SMCC, but Gorham middle school and high school are the ones who like provide the educators for this program. And so the classes, the first week boot camp and the Monday afternoon classes are offered in Gorham. And then additional week-long course engagements are required, like again, at the start of each semester. So if you start in January, you do that first week, and then you work full-time until September. And then in September, you would do another full week of coursework. So that's the structure of the program. And like other schools, the COE follows like a school calendar. So, like Monday, a lot of the holidays fall on Mondays. So sometimes like classes will be canceled that week or rescheduled for an afternoon, but it is only class one afternoon per week.
Okay. Oh, that's good. It's good to know because I know some of the other apprenticeships it's integrated into the week too. So So the one thing I am hearing from you is that transportation would be necessary for not just like
Yes.
getting to and from for the day, but also like getting to class
Yep.
after hours of working for that Monday. Okay.
Yep.
Just good
So one,
to highlight.
yeah, and I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but because this is an apprenticeship program, there are supports built in. And you mentioned like transportation. So if there are any like concerns with transportation or any barriers to employment or success in the apprenticeship, that's something that the apprenticeship program really does a good job of supporting people in figuring out how to set everyone up for success. So we can talk a little bit more about that later.
Yeah, actually that is the next question. It kind of wraps in, I think, like
Yeah.
benefits for the individual who's going through the training. I mean, you mentioned it's earn while you learn, so they're getting
Yep.
an hourly rate. And then
Yep.
I think part-time benefits, correct, for this?
Yeah, so the let's talk about rates first. So the hourly rates for ed tech. So the starting rate is $19 an hour. And then um, at completion, there's like a pay bump. So at completion, it will be around $20.75, depending on the certifications that you go for. So there's no like certification exam or licensure exam that you sit for. There's just regular exams, like if you're in school during the program. But there are sort of like specialty certifications for behavioral health that you can pursue, and that would obviously give you more compensation if you
Mhm.
decide to go for those.
Okay.
As far as some of the other benefits for someone who's in the apprenticeship program, so as an apprentice, you are offered career navigation and support. And that looks like helping with career mapping and pathways and how to kind of set yourself up for success for long-term goals, short-term goals. Um, so myself and my colleague Justin, we are the career navigators on the workforce development team. And so we help kind of facilitate that career navigation with anyone who is interested in pursuing that. There's also mentoring that's built into being an apprentice. So as an ed tech apprentice, you would be paired up with a mentor. So somebody who is already an ed tech there. And so someone that sort of more of a peer, right? That you can talk to, kind of have that support, that informal support about how things are going, what's going well, what you maybe need a little bit more support with, things like that. You are eligible for full-time benefits at MaineHealth.
Oh,
So
wow.
um, there are a range of benefits. But the first one, obviously, the biggest one, health insurance, right? Health
Mhm.
insurance, dental insurance. There are a lot of other benefits at MaineHealth that are optional, like pet insurance and wellness. There's wellness perks to working here. There are now counseling programs and wellness programs and mental health programs that are offered as a benefit to MaineHealth employees. Paid time off, retirement. So any kind of standard benefits that you would think of in a job, those will also be applicable to an apprentice.
That's great. So I just want to highlight a couple things that you said. For our students who are maybe considering like what the difference between an earn while you learn program and like going for a post-secondary training, like say to the community college system. One thing that I heard you say is that you are kind of directly applying what you're learning in the work environment that you're going to be. So you will really know what that environment is like, and you're learning the skills with a mentor as you kind of go through that. So not being shocked at the end of what this work environment. So some people train for, however long and then get out into the real world of that work environment, and it's not the theory that they studied isn't the same. So you're getting that practical hands-on like right away and also getting an hourly rate and benefits to support you as you're going through. So I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, and
Um,
so just to clarify too, I think sometimes like people get hung up with the term apprentice. You are a MaineHealth employee when you apply to this program. So I know we're going to talk about the application process, but when you apply to be a part of this apprenticeship, it is doing a job application like you would for any job at MaineHealth. So it is a full-time job to be learning how to be an ed tech. and that is at a certain rate. And then once you finish the program in 18 months, you get a pay bump, but you're still an employee. Nothing changes. So I think that's important to highlight as well.
Yeah, and the kind of career mapping piece too, similar to like what a college advisor or career advisor would do for you. It's
Yep.
just happening in-house, helping you like, okay, so if you went for this certification, this is what it would look like. Or I know we're going to talk about kind of the conversion to an associate's degree if you chose to do that path at the end of this. So that's another benefit that I feel like I wanted to, but that person would be there to kind of help the student. I guess you and Justin would be helping
Yeah.
the students kind of make those determinations as they go based off of what their interests are.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good kind of connection. So if you were to go, if you have a counselor in high school or a career coach or counselor in a community college or college that you go to, they can give you sort of general recommendations for pathways or interest assessments of things that you're interested in, things like that. Our career navigation really is more specific to how do I advance my career at MaineHealth? So what options are out there for me? I have this certification. I did this apprenticeship. I'm now ready to make the next step. What's the next step for me? Or how can I begin thinking about the next step? And when can I take advantage of that?
Excellent. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
So could you talk about the kind of if a student wanted to continue on with an associate's degree after this, what that would maybe do for them or set them up for, how
Yeah.
the apprenticeship converts over to credits for SMCC?
Yeah. So, so this, like I said, this apprenticeship is offered in conjunction with SMCC. When you finish this apprenticeship at 18 months, you do not graduate with a degree. So if you wanted to pursue an associate's degree, which you don't have to be an ed tech, I just want to make sure that people are aware of that. You can finish the program and work at MaineHealth as an ed tech without any other degree with this apprenticeship program. If you did want to carry on and get an associate's degree, which is a great thing to have and a very transferable skill and degree, I think it's about 4 or 5 additional classes that you would need to take at SMCC. So that would be something that you would want to talk to an advisor at SMCC about completing your degree. I've done these number of classes, these courses, how many more classes, which courses do I need to take to get an associate's degree?
Yeah, and as a JMG student, we have 3 specialists who sit at SMCC's campus, so it'd be pretty seamless for them to hook back up with the 3 folks over there, and they could help support them in that way. So I think that's just good to highlight, good to know that they don't need it, but if they
Yep.
chose to continue on, they could.
Sure. Yep. Yeah.
Is there a work requirement? So I know that some of the Earn While You Learn programs that they require you to work for a certain time for MaineHealth after. Is that the same for this one?
That is the same. There is an expectation, you're being paid by MaineHealth to pursue this. So there is an expectation that you work as an ed tech for some period of time at MaineHealth after the completion of the program. I can't tell you exactly what that commitment is. It's sort of in flux right now, whether or not there can be a requirement, how long the requirement may be. So it's just sort of the expectation that you are an employee, you will continue to be an employee of the program at the completion.
Okay. No, I think that's good. And knowing that the start dates are kind of January and September, in all likelihood, that will be fleshed out by, the next start time is
Right.
September. So,
Yep.
okay. And we've been talking about kind of integrating this one all throughout, how a high school student could use this in part of their post-secondary planning. But I don't know if there was anything else you wanted to add to that, other than what we've kind of talked about already.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say as a high school student or, having just recently graduated from high school, I think the first step is really to think about where you see yourself working. The fit and the environment is really important. I think when you're thinking about your career, If you love schools or you loved school, my mom was a principal, so I spent a lot of time in schools. I always loved being in schools. If you have a personal connection like that and you just like the setting of schools, or if you love working with kids, if you think that being in a helping role like this in a school is a good fit for you, I think this is a great place to start. It's not a college degree, right? So if you're not sure if you want to pursue college, need to pursue college, or if you're not quite ready yet, this is a really great place to get started. Um, Being an ed tech is incredibly rewarding, but you also get the collaborative experience as working as part of a team. So you're going to be working with teachers, occupational therapists, special ed teachers, nurses, behavior techs, behavior analysts. So there's a lot of different kind of specialists that you can learn from. So it really gives you a good sense of, like, if you want to be an ed tech for the rest of your life, great. But if you're not sure what you want to do, you'll be exposed to a lot of other people who have taken different paths or pursued different avenues. And it might give you a good sense of sort of like that built-in job shadow, right? You're like working with a teacher. Do I want to have the responsibility of being a teacher? Do I like what the OT is doing? Could I go with my student to OT to learn a little bit more about what an occupational therapist does? Same with the behavior analysts. They'll come in your classroom and they'll they're collecting data, they're watching behaviors, they're analyzing behavior, they're making behavior plans, right? If that's something that's interesting to you, reaching out to people and asking, like, how do you become this? What does this mean? How could I do this? Right. So it is a really good place to start in education. If you're sure you want to do that, or if you're not sure, but you just like working in education or like the idea of starting in education.
That's fantastic advice too, because sometimes you don't even realize that there's a job for something that you might want to do until you're in the environment. Like you were talking about occupational therapy. I don't think I ever would have considered that as a position and like someone's
Mhm.
trained to do that work. So I think using your network, and if you aren't sure that or not fully wanting to commit to going to school right after going to a college or a training program, is a really good option.
Yeah.
You'll be, learning a skill and earning at the same time, which is, a good way to support yourself as you're moving through. So
Yeah. And
fantastic.
I know this sort of is uh, like sort of thinking about next steps, but um, this is being an ed tech is about halfway to becoming a special education teacher. So many people do choose to continue their education and become a special education teacher. Not all by any means. Some people start out as ed techs and again become nurses, but you could work in psych as a nurse, right? So you're still getting that exposure to the behavioral health, right? Like that's still, I guess my point is that's still a very useful experience. It's everybody starts somewhere, right? But you're getting that exposure. So it does open the door to a lot of other experiences. And I think, like I mentioned, kind of a built-in job shadow. You're really just
Mhm.
you're in it, right? You're in the mix. You're working one-on-one with a student. But you're also around a lot of other professionals and working really interprofessionally, which is really a good tool for networking and advancing your career.
Yeah, and just another plug for like the career navigator, because
Yeah.
that person, they'll help you kind of make those decisions as you come to a point of when you have to decide to go which direction. So you have somebody to bounce those ideas off of, in addition to like the network that you just build in your just everyday work environment. So I think this is just a really great supportive program. Um, so we talked about the eligibility requirements, but I thought maybe to kind of wrap us up, closing to the end, is just talking through the application. And you
Yeah.
mentioned like that you're applying for a job. It's not necessarily applying to the program, or maybe it's both. So maybe could you talk about the steps of what the application looks like?
Yeah. So on the MaineHealth Careers website, this position is posted on there about 4 to 6 weeks before the cohort starts. So it'd be probably like in December, maybe around Thanksgiving, but December-ish for January start. and then, late July, August-ish for September start. And the position is titled Education Technician Apprentice. So on the MaineHealth Careers website, there's a search bar. You can type in EdTech, you can type in apprentice, and it'll pull up all the apprentice positions, and then you can find the Education Technician Apprentice job. There is a kind of like jargony part at the end that says COE K-12. That is Center of Excellence. That's where it's located, at the Glickman Lauder Center of Excellence. And K-12 signifies the school. So the Glickman Lauder Center of Excellence also does have a preschool, and they also do offer in-home supports. So there's sort of different arms. So the K-12 is the school part of it. So just to clarify. So that's how you would apply. As far as your application is submitted, it's the same as applying for any job. A recruiter will contact you. You'll be offered an interview if your qualifications match what the hiring manager is looking for, and then be invited for an interview.
Great. As part of the application, they have to do a resume and provide professional reference, either written or just names and contact information. Is that correct?
Yes. So it is built into the application to have references on there. And yes, you would need to have a resume.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And then as far as the interview goes, so there's typically an in-person interview, consists of meeting the director and having a tour around the facility. The COE was just recently built. I think it was built like 3 or 4 years ago. So it's really an incredible building. Tons of glass, like the lights are dimming. They have like sound adjustments for each room, built-in little like quiet spaces for kiddos, like little nooks and crannies and like bookshelves. And it's really like, it was very intentionally created for this population, who tends to get really overstimulated by lots of light, lots of sound. And so there's a lot of quiet spaces. So it's really amazing. So you'll get a tour, you'll have an in-person interview. The interview session is typically like one longer interview session that gives the prospective apprentice and employee a chance to observe the classroom. Just like it's equally as important for the apprentice to see, like, is this a place I could see myself working, as it is for the COE to see, is this someone we could see working here? So it's really, I like to think of interviews as really like a two-way street, right? Is this a population I could see myself working with? Are these people I could see being my coworkers? Is this an environment I feel comfortable and safe working in? And they're all wondering the same things when they're interviewing you too. So, you want to make sure that it's going to be a good fit if you're selected to work there.
That's wonderful. I think we've gone through probably more than what we outlined to talk about today. So if there's any closing thoughts that you wanted to provide at this time, that'd be great.
The only other thing I want to mention is that we're currently in the process, I think I did mention it earlier, of creating a special education teacher apprenticeship. So there will be that clear pathway from being an EdTech apprentice in that 18-month program, working as an EdTech for a little bit, and then continuing on to be a special education teacher with MaineHealth. You also, as an EdTech apprentice in this program, you could choose to transfer your skills to the public school system. So this apprenticeship gives you a lot of options. We do expect that you work at MaineHealth after the apprenticeship, but in, a year after, 2 years after, you may want to work closer to your elementary school that you went to in Lisbon or in Freeport, right? The Center of Excellence is located in, it's really on the like South Portland, Westbrook line. You could be working in a public school closer to your home if that works better for you. And then I also did want to mention that we are also in the process of creating a psych tech apprenticeship. And psych techs and ed techs are both, they're similar positions, except an ed tech is really more of a support role in a classroom and education setting. A psych tech is a support in the psychiatric setting. So they'd be working in behavioral health in inpatient at Spring Harbor Hospital, which is on the same campus as the Center of Excellence, but just a different, you're working in inpatient versus Center of Excellence is a special purpose school. So different population, same types of behavior management, I would say. Obviously, less significant and less severe behaviors at the Center of Excellence because it's a school. So at Spring Harbor, as a psych tech, you're really working with people in acute crisis.
Mhm.
And so you may see more severe behaviors there. But more on that coming soon. Rachel and I are going to plan to connect about that coming up when things are finalized. And thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you so much, Haley. I think your background and the information you shared was just fantastic for our students to hear, and we look forward to having you back to talk about the Psych Tech apprenticeship when it's available.
Awesome. All right.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you. All right.